Solar PV Cast by Shift, a podcast exploring solar energy and the role it plays in improving our lives and our planet. Here's your host, Chris Palliser.
Hey, thanks for listening. It's the Solar PV Cast, and yes, I am your host, Chris. Today, we're going to be talking about a program that's running in Alberta right now. It's called Solar Club. You might be familiar with it. You've probably seen it in many of these Solar Alberta chat groups on Facebook. There's a reason people are talking about it, and to find out more about it, we've got Darren Chu, Managing Director of Solar Club, joining the Solar PV Cast. Hello, Darren.
Hi, nice to be here.
Okay, so right out of the gate, what is Solar Club?
Solar Club is a program that we designed specifically for microgenerators in Alberta. The purpose of the program was to help people improve the ROI in their system. We know that you're going to spend $30,000, $40,000 on a system. We want you to see the value of that investment paid back as quickly as possible. So we designed a program where you can switch between two rates. We've got a high rate and a low rate. The high rate is for the summer months where you're generating more, and then the low rate is for the winter months when you're consuming more. And the program is really designed to maximize the value of your system and give you the most value out of that system.
So when you say high, forgive me, I'm going to come at this super basic. So when you say a rate, this is a rate that you are paid. I'm paid for my solar production?
Yeah, that's a great question. So under the Alberta microgeneration regulation, you have to be paid and credited at the same rate. So all the energy you pull from the grid, you are paying for at a rate, and all the energy that you export back to the grid, you are also credited at that same rate. So our program is designed such that in the summer months when you're on the high rate, which is currently set at 30 cents a kilowatt hour, you are being credited for all of your excess generation. So you are a net exporter, and you're being credited for that excess, those excess kilowatt hours at 30 cents a kilowatt hour. And then all the energy you import from the grid in the evenings, when the sun's gone down, your system isn't generating anymore, you're paying at 30 cents a kilowatt hour. And then we do the same thing for the winter months. So we've got a winter rate, which we call the low rate. And that rate is more in line with traditional fixed rates, so fixed competitive rates. So if you did nothing at all and you signed up for a regular fixed rate, you'd be paying for all energy you import at that rate, but also being credited at that rate throughout the year. So what our program allows you to do is to take advantage of the seasonality of your generation. Longer daylight hours in the summer, less energy consumption, maybe you're going on vacation for the summer with the kids, barbecuing outside, not using electric baseboard heaters, right? All of those sorts of things reduce your overall consumption in the summer months so that you can really take advantage of all the excess power that your system is generating from about April through to the end of September.
So what's the difference in terms of paying your system off, non-member versus member of the Solar Club?
So I'd say the big difference is the payback time. We figure that payback period is probably somewhere in the range of 7 to 9 years, depending, right? This is all premised on your site needs to be, or your solar system needs to be sized appropriately, right? So under regulation, you're allowed to install as much solar energy as will cover your average annual consumption. So if you size your system to the max and you make it so that you are installing the maximum number of panels that you possibly can, this all works really, really well. And your payback period is probably 7 or 8 years. Without Solar Club benefits, without all the stuff that we provide under the Solar Club program, your payback period is probably 9, 10, maybe even 11 years. We've heard stories about payback periods being even longer, say 10 to 15 years. So we're really trying to help people maximize the value of their systems.
So I become a member of Solar Club. Now, my head is in BC, so it's BC Hydro. That's just how it works. Now, obviously in Alberta, you have many more options, EPCOR, NMAX, all of them. Are my bills still with my utility, my wires company, I believe, or am I now on the Solar Club bill train part of your utility network?
Yeah, so when you sign up with a retailer in Alberta, you are not really signing up with the wires company. The wires company is um, that's the group that services your territory. So if you're in Calgary, for example, the wires company is NMAX. If you're in Edmonton, the wires company is EPCOR. Um, with us, we don't really care what the wires company is. Those charges flow through us to the customer. So if you're a Solar Club customer or not, doesn't really matter. You're still going to pay those wires charges. We call those distribution and transmission charges, or D&T. So those fees get charged no matter what you do. The great advantage to solar is that your system will generate on your home and your consumption will happen on site first. So you immediately reduce the amount of energy you need to pull from the grid, your imports. When you do that, you actually have an impact on your distribution and transmission charges because a portion of those charges is variable, and that variable piece is based on your overall consumption. So if you have no solar, if you the only way to impact those D&T charges is to consume less, turn off more lights, use more energy efficient appliances, that sort of thing. With solar, because your system is feeding back into your home first, it's powering everything ahead of what you would pull from the grid, and therefore what you do pull from the grid is significantly reduced. Therefore, you reduce your D&T charges. So that's the really big advantage of having solar in Alberta, is that you actually, not only can you offset your primary energy consumption and in fact generate credits that can carry you through the winter if your system's sized appropriately, but also you can reduce the D&T side of things considerably, and that makes it even more attractive in that sense. And that all contributes to that payback period reduction.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it all sounds good. So am I getting a bill from EPCOR, like my power bill, or is it now going to be from Solar Club?
It would be from one of our retailers. So my company, UtilityNet, operates a network of 38 community energy marketers scattered across the province. All of our retail brands are able to service customers anywhere in the province with a few exceptions. But generally speaking, when you sign up with one of our brands, so our flagship brand as an example is Spot Power. Spot Power has been open since 2008. And so if you sign up with Spot Power, your bills are paid through Spot Power. The portion that goes to, if you're in Calgary as an example, the portion that goes to NMAX just gets flowed through from us straight to NMAX. So you're only paying one bill, but all of those charges are allocated appropriately.
Got it. Okay. And I guess that's what I was trying to wrap my head around, because again, with the BC mind, it's just BC Hydro. Or Fortis.
Yeah.
We get those two bills and that's it. But in Alberta, of course, you have a choice what company to use. So you mentioned your company is what's the name of the parent company of Solar Club?
So the parent company is UtilityNet.
Okay.
And then we've got those 38 community energy marketers.
Got it. Okay. So essentially, when you go with Solar Club, you're also going with one of these community energy providers.
Yes.
And that's how you guys can kind of track. That's how you can apply these great rates, 9 cents in the winter, 30 cents in the summer. What's the uptake? Are you finding a lot of success with this program?
Uptake has been huge. We have seen an incredible uptake of solar customers. So right now, we've got about 1/3 of all microgenerators in the province are members of our program.
Wow.
The program is, or the microgeneration market, as an example, is growing really fast. And that hardly describes it. That's a massive understatement. 4 years ago, there were 5,000 microgen sites, so 2020. Today, there's well over 25,000. So it is growing at a ridiculous pace. There are more solar installers now than there ever have been before. So our program is growing in leaps and bounds. We are seeing huge uptake. And all of our members, we've aggregated them under what we call the Hummingbird Virtual Solar Community. So our logo is a hummingbird, and that comes from an old story of there's a forest fire and the animals all flee, except for this one little hummingbird that dips back and forth from the river and drops, this one little droplet on the fire, and the animals are all looking at him going, "What are you doing? You're never going to put out this fire." And his response is, well, if we all did a little bit, we probably could. So we've taken that idea of doing things, one day at a time. Every bit counts, one kilowatt hour at a time. And so if we take all of our Solar Club members who are scattered all across the province and we aggregate them under the Hummingbird Virtual Solar Community, we have the second largest distributed virtual solar generation unit, let's say, in the entire province. So in aggregate, we're looking at anywhere from 85 to 95 megawatts in size, which puts us second only to the Traverse Solar Project, which I believe is 465 megawatts. So a massive solar farm. We might catch
Canada's
up to that
largest.
one day. That would be a lovely dream.
Yeah.
But in terms of standard solar farms, you're looking at an average of 25 megawatts. So our customers make up this massive virtual solar community, and they love the program. They rave about it. They talk about it. Like you mentioned, Facebook groups, our name comes up all the time because everyone will say, I'm a Solar Club member, but I'm with Park Power, or I'm a Solar Club member with Camrose Energy, or Spot Power, or whatever the case may be. They love this program, and we're constantly innovating. We have really tried to drive the green revolution in Alberta. So as an example, we set a goal in 2019 to export 100 million kilowatt hours of green energy back into the grid from our members. That goal, we were hoping we would meet that by 2030. We met it this year.
Oh, wow.
So we've had to say, okay, well, we've exported 100 million kilowatt hours. Maybe we should increase the goal a little bit. So we've pushed it up to 250 million kilowatt hours, and we'll keep the 2030 deadline, but now we're shooting for an even higher amount. So we're really trying to drive the industry. Our members contribute to us and through us, and as a result of that, we've donated over $300,000 back to local charities. That's one of our core values, is to always give back to the communities where we live and work. So we've done quite a bit, and customers love this program, and they're. Oh, sorry.
Oh, there we go. We're back.
Am I back?
Something exciting to say.
Okay.
Go for it.
I was just saying, we've given back to a lot of charitable organizations, $300,000 over the course of the Solar Club's lifetime has been donated back to local charities, because we believe in giving back to the communities where we live and work. So the program has been exceptionally successful,
Amazing.
and so much so that other retailers copied our model. So now NMAX has a seasonal program. Other retailers have seasonal solar programs, to the point where we actually had to ask people to not call them Solar Club rates, because other retailers were calling them Solar Club rates, when really that's our brand and our program. That's how popular it's become.
You're the OG of solar clubs.
Yeah, in a sense, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's kind of cool too. Like, it makes you feel like you're part of a community. You are that little hummingbird that's adding your, 5 kilowatt array to the big picture.
Yeah, we really have tried to really do our part, and our customers do this for a number of reasons. They do it because it's greening the grid, it's greening Alberta's economy. They want to do their part, but also because there's something in it for them. They get that payback. If your system's sized appropriately, like I mentioned, if you take advantage of the high and low rates the right way and you time those switches the right way, you can generate enough credits to carry you through an entire winter, right? So you're not, and there's an important distinction here, is you're never eliminating a bill. You are offsetting 100% of that bill, to the point where you can keep those credits on file and draw against them in the winter months. So in the course of a year, you might pay nothing, but that doesn't mean you didn't still owe that money, right? That those distribution charges weren't still being paid and whatnot. So that's always going to be the case. But you are generating enough to basically cover your entire year's worth of utility consumption, assuming nothing changes naturally.
Right. How does it work with the Camrose Power, I think you said, these other multiple 38 power companies? Are they effectively green power companies? You know what I mean? Like, are they still using fossil fuels as their main supply, but now they're also supplying solar because they're getting solar from their members? If that makes
It's a
any
good
sense,
question.
maybe.
Yeah, it's a good question. So Alberta's grid is kind of like, the analogy we use is that Alberta's grid is like a bathtub. When you pull from the bathtub, you're scooping water, right? You're pulling energy from the grid, you're scooping water out of that bathtub. That bathtub, let's say it's being filled by two taps. One is from non-renewable sources. In our case now, it used to be coal and natural gas, but they've actually shut down the natural gas, or sorry, they've shut down the coal facilities. So now it's all natural gas. So you've got one tap from natural gas. Then you have another tap that's from renewables, wind, solar, hydro, biomass. So the mix of water is all mixed together, and you would never know when you scoop water out of the bathtub. You don't know how much came from renewable, how much came from conventional. And so, every user, when they pull energy from the grid, when you turn on a light switch, you plug in a toaster, you are using a combination of both renewable and non-renewable energy. What our members are doing is they're exporting their excess energy back to the grid, and that energy really gets used at a local level because it's not making its way back through transmission lines all the way across the province. It's being distributed locally. And that's a challenge for wires companies to handle their infrastructure. And, I won't touch on that because that's their business. But, generally speaking, they're supplying power to their neighbors in a small way. And they are increasing the ratio of renewable to non-renewable energy that they're pulling from the grid. That's really what they're doing. So all of our retail brands are using conventional energy and they're selling conventional energy to customers. But the Solar Club allows them to differentiate the way that happens and to really have an impact on the way it happens. And the more members we get, the better off we will all be. We're all generating solar power, and we've positioned our Solar Club as really being the solution to the moratorium. So a number of months ago, the government put in place a moratorium on renewable generation facilities. And so, we heard from one farmer say, when I see solar on every rooftop in Alberta, fine, then you can put solar on my fields. So we take that as a challenge and we go, okay, great, let's do that. Why can't we do that? Let's put solar on every rooftop. There are thousands of flat roofs in this province that could easily support solar. It's just a matter of investment. So let's do that. Let's push for more solar on rooftops because you don't see it. Nobody knows it's there. You're not looking at everyone's rooftop going, oh, there's so much solar on all the rooftop. Like, nobody cares about any of that stuff. It's one way of getting around having solar out on fields. We know that solar is not being installed on prime agricultural land, but doesn't change the fact that you could easily put solar on rooftops, not to mention the fact that solar installed on rooftops tends to be less carbon intensive because you now don't have to install all the infrastructure, right? All the racking to lift it up off the ground. Whereas you're now using the infrastructure that's in place, which is the current rooftop. So there's so many advantages to really doing this and taking that solar first or solar forward approach. And that's really what we're trying to do.
Well, and solar is community, across Canada. You feel like when you go solar, there's a bit of a community. Is there a limit on system size to become a Solar Club member? Like, can a farmer with a solar farm, become a Solar Club member? Is there a limit, minimum, maximum?
There is a limit. So under regulation, the system size needs to be 149 kilowatts or less. And when you're less than 149 kilowatts, you are qualified as a small microgenerator. Right. From 150 kilowatts up to 5 megawatts, you are a large microgenerator. We'll take large microgenerator customers, so you can have farms that have large systems. However, the rules are a little different under regulation, and it's a little more complicated, so maybe we won't get into it. But generally speaking, we're looking at residential customers who have 5, 10, maybe even 15 kilowatt systems, and they're the ones really building the club. But we do have quite a few farms who are installing solar. We have irrigation sites that install solar, and they love it. They're getting great value out of it. They're the ones you see in those Dairy Farmers of Canada commercials where they're saying, I'm using renewable energy to power my farm, to supply milk and dairy products to Canadians. that's what we love to see, is that those farmers are taking advantage of not only the renewable technology, but also our program to really get the most out of what they're trying to do.
It seems like a win-win-win for everybody all around the board. What is the benefit from, I guess, your parent company to starting the Solar Club?
Part of the benefit is it's a great economical model. It's a way for us to distinguish ourselves from all the other retailers in the market. In Alberta, we've got a deregulated market, which means at last count, I think there's 59 retail brands in Alberta where customers can choose, right? You can choose any one of the 59. So we need to stand out. We got to do something a little different, and Solar Club was a way to do that. It was a way to really support all the people who want to give back and do so in a renewable fashion, for whom sustainability is important to them. Those customers are important to us. We want to do that for them. So the Solar Club was really a way to achieve those goals. But also, solar is in a lot of ways the future. This is what Canada is moving towards. It's why we have the clean energy regulations. The Canadian government is trying to really push for more renewable development. Well, why not start at the local level? Why not start at the household level? That is the easiest way to affect change nationwide, as opposed to big regulations, big projects, big investments. Like, that's all great, and those things will happen naturally. But if you have things like the Canada Greener Homes Loan, or the Canada Greener Home, or the former, I guess, Canada Greener Homes Grant, those things drive investment. And there was a point this summer where we were seeing $1 million being invested in solar every single day in Alberta, which is wild when you think about it. Mm-hmm. We'd love to see it reach $1 billion a day. That people are just investing in solar left, right, and center, and everyone's getting solar and loving it. And that's what we find is our customers love it. They're so excited when they get solar installed. They can't wait to dig into the analytics and open up their solar inverter app and see the numbers. Totally. And I have one on mine because I have solar on my home, and I've got the AP Systems app, and so I see the little window with the liquid flowing. And this is exciting.
That's the first thing they say. At the end of every day, a solar user lays in bed, and it's not social media. It's their app. What did I produce today?
Yeah, you're looking at it almost hourly in those first weeks.
Yeah,
it's just all new. You're looking at it all the time. How much am I generating? Yeah. Oh my God, is there a cloud cover? Like, totally. Am I getting enough solar? So people love it, and we want to support that.
Can you mentioned the switching between rates? Is that something, there's some talking about the people watching their app. Can you flip constantly, like week to week, or is it kind of twice a year you get to make the flip?
You can do it once a billing period. If you really wanted to, you could flip back and forth every month.
Watching the weather and you're like, oh, it's going to be real cloudy. Okay, I'm going to flip for this month. I mean, you're rolling the dice because really who can predict the weather? But
yeah, so you can do that. What we find is it's not advantageous to do so. It's really best to just do the switch from low to high in the spring and then high to low in the fall. Alberta is kind of a weird place in the sense of in May, we'll get snow, right? And so we had lots of customers this year who switched from the low winter rate up to the high summer rate in April. And then in May, we got a whole bunch of days with snow, and suddenly panels are covered in snow and nobody's generating anything. And people panicked and they went, oh my God, I switched too early. I need to switch back. But of course, on our system and based on how the whole, Alberta energy market works, you really can't be switching rates like that so quickly all the time. So, but ultimately, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference. 1 or 2 days
comes out in the wash.
1 or 2 days of poor generation, it won't matter. And that's one of the nice things about Alberta is that because it's so sunny here, it's not going to make or break the bank, right? 1 day of snow cover, all you have to do, and I say this with a huge caveat, you don't really want to clear your solar panels, right? Don't touch them, don't clear the snow off. But what I discovered on mine is that if even just one little corner is exposed, that black or dark blue surface, it will warm up so fast. And that snow just slides right off those panels. You don't have to do anything, right? Because it's so sunny here, even in the middle of winter when it's minus 20, those panels will warm up. and that snow will melt and it will take care of itself, right? So there's no reason to really switch back and forth.
Yeah.
That's
great.
really the long and short of it.
Yeah. What about the, I know installers listen to the Solar PV cast. You have a partnership program, and you might have touched on it earlier, but installers are linking up with you guys as well. And I would assume there's obviously benefits for them to share Solar Club with their installers and vice versa.
Yeah. So solar installers can be associate members with the Solar Club. Essentially, what they do is they just promote our program in their quote packages. The nice thing about solar installers is they're talking to dozens of customers a day. So every package that goes out to a customer that says, here's your proposal, here's what we can do for you, here's how many panels you can install a 8.6 kilowatt system with 24 panels, blah, 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 all those details. What they can then build into that package to say, we can do this for you, but also after you get solar installed, well, let's help you get on with a utility provider who offers a solar club. And they'll refer them directly. And the advantage to the solar installer is they'll make a little bit of residual income. We pay them a commission fee. We've done promotions in the past. We've paid them, a little bit of a bonus. Sign up X number of customers. We'll pay you for those customers. And it works to their advantage because they are the ones doing all the work, really. They're the ones going out and installing solar on homes. And this year what we did is we introduced something called the pre-solar rate. So for customers who are getting solar installed, so you sign the contract, you get your proposal, you get your proposals, I should say, you look at them, you pick an installer, you sign the contract. The moment you sign that contract, you can sign up for one of our pre-solar rates.
Cool.
And our pre-solar rate right now is 6.69 cents per kilowatt hour. We did that because like I mentioned, you're spending $20,000, $30,000 on the system. We want to help you save a little bit of money in the meantime, because it'll be a couple months before your system is installed, before your meter gets switched out, before the inspection is done, and before your site is actually designated for microgeneration in our site catalog. So in that 6-month period, which is what we've figured is the maximum amount of time from signing a contract to being ready to go, you can be on the 6.69 rate, save a ton of money, and then as soon as your site goes live, we will automatically flip you and put you onto a Solar Club rate. And you don't have to do anything. We'll take care of all of it. It's all automated. There's nothing for the customer to do. It's really, really easy. And our main driving factor behind that is we could spend years waiting for the government to put in programs and incentives and to drive the market themselves. Why don't we do it? Why don't we just step in and just say, you know what? Let's drive solar adoption. Let's do it through a rate. That's something we can control. It's something we do already. So let's do that. So we introduced a pre-solar rate. The pre-solar rate falls under our Solar Ready program. So our big question to customers is, are you solar ready? Yes, great. Sign up for our pre-solar rate, save some money. Then when your system is live, you get to take advantage of all the benefits of the Solar Club program.
Well, that feels good too, because it feels like you've taken the step to go solar on day one. Even though you might have to wait for the install, you're kind of part of the family right out of the gate.
Yeah.
That's smart planning. It's like you guys planned that.
You could say that, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a great program. What about, does it exist across Canada? Is Alberta kind of the only place where these programs are popping up?
Right now, Alberta is leading the way.
Right.
We have probably one of the best microgeneration regulations in the country. I know there's solar type programs in Ontario, and I know there's solar programs across the country in other provinces. It's just a little harder to do in other provinces where you don't have a deregulated market and where the utilities are run by a crown corporation. In Alberta, we use something called net billing, which basically means what I described is you're credited and charged the same rate. Mm-hmm. I know in some provinces they use net metering, and so the rate that you are credited at is actually quite a bit discounted. And so you're not making back nearly as much money. Mm-hmm. And that, and again, it's not about making a profit. It never was. It's about improving the ROI. It's about making sure that you are getting the most out of your investment. That has always been our driving force, and that's the intention of the regulation. You talk to wires companies, you talk to the AUC, you talk to ISO, they'll all say the same thing. The intention is to offset your consumption, to reduce your carbon footprint. That's all their program does. It just makes it so that you generate enough in the summertime, you can cover your bills in the wintertime, you are effectively 100% offset. Great. You are meeting the intention of the regulation. That's what we want to see. That's what our customers want.
And it provides some stability, I would imagine, to solar, which, sometimes people complain that, well, there's no stability, it's not reliable, you never know. But with this program, you're getting that stability.
Yeah. And if you take the time to learn your data, to get to know your system, to see what your consumption patterns are, and most people who install solar, they are of that mindset already. They're already starting to look at, where can I make changes to my home? How can I reduce my consumption? How can I be more green, more sustainable? Those people are already taking advantage of the program. So as long as you are really trying to, to know your system and know your home and know your data, it's easy to switch. You just have to watch your consumption and your generation and get to know your patterns. Sometimes it takes a year. We have customers who just stay on the low rate year round for their first year. They just want to get a sense of how, when, why. Like they don't know their data enough. That's fine. We encourage that. Get to know your system because, a mistake can be expensive, but we do our best to try and help customers understand their data, and we provide monthly analytics. We send out emails that show you, here's your imports, here's your exports, here's the difference. We've started doing a whole new set of emails out to customers, basically saying, based on previous data, here's when we would recommend that you switch.
Cool.
We give them that data and say, if you don't know anything about your system, fine. Here's a date. Go online, log into your account, and then just set the rate switch. The nice thing about our system is that you can backdate your rate switches. So there's a little bit of, I like to think of it as like time travel. You get to see your generation if you time it right, you can see your generation for a whole month and then go into the portal, set your rate change for a day in the past, as far back as your last meter read date. And then you get to take advantage and you get to control basically what you're being charged at. It's really incredible. And I don't think people fully understand that this is something they can do, that you get to see the future and then change the past.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's kind of a neat concept, but that's a feature of our system and our program, and we make that work because, that's how our billing system was designed.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a win-win. And like I said off the top, word of mouth marketing is all you guys need because, log into any sort of solar chat group online and Solar Club's in there a lot. And so, tip of the hat to you guys for coming up with this program and starting it and leading the way in Alberta because it obviously seems like a great benefit. Darren, thanks so much for joining the podcast and shedding some light on Solar Club, how that works and the role it plays in the Alberta energy market. And I love the hummingbird drop of water on the forest fire because it's so right. At the end of the day, coming back to BC, if we all just put a little bit of solar on all our houses, we don't need a site C. We don't need another site C. And, it's the way, it's just a matter of getting people thinking that way.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, great. Darren Chu, Managing Director of Solar Club in Alberta on the podcast today. Thanks again, Darren.
Yep, no problem.
The Solar PV Cast by Shift with Chris Palliser. To begin your solar journey, visit shift.ca.